New week on the call up, and we're talking promotions. Of course, we got plenty more of those, both from the big league level all the way down to the lower levels in the minor leagues. And we got performers so far through August as we hit August 19th on this Monday. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. Jack, we knew the Red Sox were going to give us a wave of promotions, and those are a little bit more dated than some of the others we're going to talk about. But we were always discussing the trio being pushed together, and it just seems like that's how the Red Sox are going to do this thing.
Are we going to call this a quartet now? Because Christian Campbell was talking about Campbell, and I texted Cooper Boardman, who guest host of the call-up, but also one of the announcers in Worcester, and I keep giving him shit for his quote that's like, being in Worcester, we talked during the All-Star break, being in Worcester is like getting to Woodstock the day before the concert starts. You got to Woodstock a day early, so you're just kind of waiting. And I texted him Campbell with like 3 question marks. He said, dude, absolutely insane. I don't think anybody was expecting him to be here at this point. I think he's made this trio a quartet.
Yes, he has. 1,000,000% has. 1, because he's a top 100 guy, even though he's in the back end. And 2, because he's been the best performer. You saw the joke that he made. I believe that was in a conversation or that his teammates made. The other trio, Teal, Meyer, and Roman Anthony, apparently they call him Barry Bonds. There's a joke because they call him Barry Bonds. I'm pretty sure that was via Jeff Pons from Baseball America in a conversation that they had, at one of the events. But I mean, could you blame him? I would call a guy that's OPSing 1,017 Barry Bonds too, especially when, these are all guys you're talking about 2 first-round picks, and then Roman Anthony, who basically was a first-round pick, was considered very close to that and got over a slot and has quickly progressed into one of the best prospects in baseball. And this guy just emerges and starts hitting better than all of you, gets there later than you, and still keeps hitting better than all of you. Yeah, this thing's a quartet, man. And yeah, he's Barry freaking Bonds, I guess, right now. We've talked about not really knowing how the swing fully plays at the big league level, but at a certain point, you just got to embrace what he is doing. And I think we're well beyond that point. And I think over the last 50 games, an OPS or just a slash line of 363, 465, 589, I would probably say we're past that point. I'm very interested to see how he does in AAA, though, because that is where that's where you're going to get the Sandy Leones, who are still somehow catching out there. They're going to see that swing path, and they're going to say, okay, attack him in. That's the feedback I've gotten from hitters as much as anything, is not just the pitcher execution. It's some of these 34-year-old catchers that are still kicking around that see them take one swing and then pick them apart the rest of the game. And they're like, man, okay, this gets me ready for the show. But I think that's another underrated aspect of it too. Instead of catchers learning how to catch, you got a lot of 33, 34-year-olds who see you take one swing and know exactly where to target you after, even with the scouting report before.
And dude, you got to remember why those minor league free agent signings are so important. Because of Sandy Leone, because of Rich Hill is there, what they can in turn do is teach the 22-year-old pitcher, if you see this in the swing, you go here. I'm really excited for you guys to hear sit-downs with Bubba Chandler and Thomas Harrington later this week. Harrington, I got into that exactly. I was like, do you understand swings now? He was like, yeah, like I do. And it's been kind of a learning process. He says, if I see a certain mechanical thing within a swing, I know what pitches I can go to, what locations I can go to. They're off of the swing. That's not something that 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds know. They just know, I've got great stuff. I'm going to beat you with my stuff.
Yeah.
But AAA is a different beast, and we'll see how that response is. I want to save a little bit about Campbell because he's kind of buried in this rundown after some big league call-ups. But, dude, all eyes on Worcester right now.
Yeah, so are we getting into the full trio now, or do you want to save that a little bit, or the quartet?
I was going to save it. Yeah, okay. might as well just package them all as a quartet and go by one. But we have 4 major league call-ups.
Yeah, that's true. Let's hammer out the major league call-ups first, and man, I'm excited to talk. 'Cause there's a couple funny age-related things on that Worcester roster as well. But big league call-ups.
Big league call-ups start with Drew Romo of the Colorado Rockies. Romo is up after they just flat-out released Elias Diaz, which was so stupid. I love these Rockies.
They could have traded him last year. They probably still could have traded him at some point earlier this year.
You're telling me you couldn't get a DSL flyer of a guy with a 770 OPS for Elias Diaz? But, man, they opted to release him. God bless the Rockies. I'm a huge Rockies fan. I know that. And they promote Drew Romo about 10 days before his 23rd birthday. Former first-round pick, 35th overall in high school out of 2020. Romo is a guy that certainly benefited from Albuquerque this year. 837 OPS in 85 games. He slashed 297, 339, 499. He was not walking. He never really has walked. But he provides this safety net bat-to-ball type thing that can work with that spacious ballpark in Colorado. What do you feel about the defense? He went 0 for 4 with a punch-out in his major league debut. I'm excited to see this guy kind of work the ball around the ballpark if he can defend, and that kind of solidifies, he's the catcher for them moving forward.
Exactly. It really is all about the defense, and I think it's continued to come along really nicely. He threw somebody out already in that first ball game, and on the year throwing out 29% of base stealers. I think the blocking has gotten better overall, but that's probably the one area to still monitor. I think that's still the most important thing. Receiving wise, I think throwing accuracy wise, just catch and throw in general looks pretty good. He has always earned high marks for the way that he commands a game, especially for how young he is. I really think the one thing is the blocking, and that seems to be one of the areas where you can get more and more comfortable as you get more acclimated and get more reps at the big league level. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the defense because that really is going to be important for him. I don't know how much offense ultimately is going to be there. He's going to be a guy that's going to swing it fine, and pretty well, I think, at Coors, but it might get ugly away from there just because of the lack of power, how aggressive he is. I mean, when you look at the splits here, Albuquerque versus on the road, and this is on the road in the PCL. I know some of the places in the PCL are not as hitter friendly as you may think, and a lot of the overall PCL numbers are buoyed by Reno and Albuquerque and a few of the others, but still, some of those other stadiums on the road are Reno, and some of the others that you're going to play in that are somewhat favorable. 351, 383, 569 slash line in 47 games at home. It's a 952 OPS. On the road in 38 games, 232, 286, 413 slash line. It's a 699 OPS. The point being, though, if he runs a 700 OPS on the road and then is 800 at home, you're fine with good defense. The thing is how much more is that going to drop off on the road in the big leagues? Right. Then you're going to really probably say, adjust that. Okay, if he can be mid 600s on the road and then be able to maintain, strong numbers at home, and can average out to a low 700s OPS with good defense, I think that's still a really good catcher and a guy that you can look at and say, hey, this is a piece of our future. Remember, he could still get better offensively. He's not even 23 yet. I think the big problem for him outside of the home road thing is that he's taking turns each year being more productive from one side than the other. This year was the most consistent from both. So I think that's a really encouraging side of it. And I still think we're going to see him get better and better at the big league level. The big thing holding him back is the swing decisions. Contact rates are good. So if he can continue to cut down that chase rate, I think we'll see a guy that could actually be an above average offensive catcher. But if he's league average, I think the defense is enough to make him an everyday guy, especially as a switch hitter.
The other thing about Romo before we move on is we talked about it during spring breakout. This guy has physically matured. He showed up a different looking Drew Romo this March, and, he's maintained that weight in Albuquerque. And this guy looks like a real major league catcher at this point versus when Romo first burst onto the scene, whether it was in Spokane or even when he got to Hartford a little bit prematurely, it was like, this guy's scrawny. Is he going to survive behind the plate for 120 games a year? The answer now is a clear yes. And I'm excited to see what this looks like at the big league level because he looks the part physically. The question is, what do you do in the batter's box to prove your worth there?
Yep, 100%.
Another guy is Trey Sweeney, and I'm very excited to kind of break down Trey Sweeney. Sweeney was one of two that came back for Jack Flaherty, and Sweeney was this offseason traded from the Yankees, former first-round pick of the Yankees out of Eastern Illinois. That was in 2021. He goes in a 40-man crunch, essentially, to the Dodgers for Yorbit Vivas. LA needed to add Vivas to the 40-man. They opted not to. So Vivas went to New York, Sweeney went to LA. Sweeney and Thayron Liranzo went to Detroit for Jack Flaherty. And Sweeney got over to Toledo. And in 11 games, slashed 381, 447, 667 with 8 extra base hits in 11 games. 6 of those games with Toledo came in Indianapolis. And dude, he's hitting the shit out of the ball. he looked very smooth at short, but I was seeing 106, 108. I was like, who are you, Mr. Sweeney? I'm excited to see him get run at the big league level.
Yeah, that Toledo stretch was only a sample of 30 batted balls, but a 90th percentile of 107 in that stretch is pretty crazy. I mean, it was just barrels everywhere. And to all fields, right? Like an Oppo double, then he's going dead central several times, couple pull side bombs. Like I was really amazed that this was not what I was expecting. We were joking about how much he's been relying on Albuquerque this year to produce on the road. Yeah, just a couple of trips there, buoyed most of his offensive numbers. And then he goes out of the PCL and all of a sudden is barreling baseballs. So, I mean, that proves that the EVs are there, right? Like that there's plus EVs there, which I think gives you some hope that he can, slug enough to carve out a big league role. I still think it's kind of a platoon type of role at the big league level, especially because, there's just really no reason to put him up against lefties, 572 OPS on the season. So it really is, can he hit righties enough to be a platoon shortstop? I think part of that's going to be the defense, and part of that's going to be just how often he's getting into that power against righties. But the fact that we're looking at a potential big league role here is nice, is a complimentary piece, and a guy that's been traded multiple times, right? And in the last year, it's usually a guy that at best is going to be a complimentary piece. You're not moving players like that often, unless it's two big deals, that like a Drew Thorpe type of situation, which is very rare. But it's usually these types of situations where it's for a rental or a 40-man swap or both. So I think that's what makes it interesting, is he's clearly tapped into some more impact, and I think he's added some strength. But I don't know totally how impactful the defense can be. I know it's good enough to stick it short, but is it above average? All those things will be interesting. But at the very, very least, I think you can look at Trey Sweeney, especially with the swing decisions getting better now too, and say, hey, I think they have a bench bat at least. And at the big league level, for a team that's continuing to just try to look for big league pieces, you have a guy on the big league minimum for 6 years that can fill in at shortstop in the meantime while you try to figure that all out. But I think, if you don't want to cut bait on Javi Baez because they just refuse to, maybe that's the platoon moving forward, right? Javi just faces lefties, and Trey Sweeney gets the bulk against righties, and you go from there.
So I love the emergence of Sweeney because, unfortunately, Ryan Kreidler has not proven to even be a capable bench bat at the big level. So it's like you give him, good bit of run. He's not proving that he can do that. I know that he had, a decent spring training, and he said, I feel like I deserve, to be on this club, and he wasn't. And, like at the end of the day, you got to get up and perform a bit better than, I think he's got a career like 500 OPS at the big level, be a little bit lower. So, you've got a guy that's going to be better than that. And I love the idea of a bulk platoon job for Sweeney while they hold on to Baez. And in essence, like, you're really just buying time until you find a guy on the free agent market that is in your wheelhouse pay-wise, or say Bryce Rayner blossoms into a real shortstop, like you need to fill these 4 years, 3-4 years while he makes his way through your organization. So like he feels like a really good time buyer for them.
Yeah. And then when you find that other option, still looks like could be a solid bench piece, or, a potential trade chip moving off of that. But yeah, I think he's, like you said, a great plug in now, because this is a team that could be decently competitive next year, and you just don't want to have a gaping hole at shortstop. And I think Sweeney looks like a far better option to potentially plug in than a Kreidler. I don't know if he'll be a league average player if they just platoon him against righties, but I know he's got a shot compared to what they've had previously there, right? Even in Eddie's Leonard and some of these other guys. Like, I think when you look at the defense as well, he's got a good chance to at least be able to fill in there for them.
Yeah. If they are good next year, it's going to be because Jace Jung is performing in an everyday role for them. And we didn't get the chance to talk about Jace Jung last week when he got his contract selected or recalled. I think it was recalled.
Selected. I think it would have been selected.
I thought he was already on the 40.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so he got his selected. Torque got recalled on the same day. So probably where we got jumbled up. And Torque is a just baseball show conversation. He's not a call-up conversation, because I think about Spencer Torkelson as a prospect, and we're far beyond those days. But Jace Jung is up with the Detroit Tigers now, and Jung was really swinging it with Toledo, and he experienced a dip. I know it was July and the beginning of August too, but He started to trend back upwards a little bit, and they said, you know what, time is now. This is a culmination of what you have done in 2024. And in Toledo in 2024, 91 games, had an 831 OPS, /257, 377, 454, 14 homers. This guy wasn't putting the ball on the ground.
No, he never does.
Ever.
No, I love what he said in your conversation with him. And by the way, great timing on that, right? We just got him in the nick of time. That has not been working in our favor lately this year.
No.
Great problem to have, right? If we miss out on a guy because he got called up, usually we have all the time in the world to go get to these guys because of how their service time gets treated. But this was one where we just got in at the buzzer. So check out that conversation that Jack had last week with Jace Jung. It was awesome. But he mentioned I feel like I've just got a God-given ability to backspin the baseball. And I just thought that was so funny because that's such a niche thing to say that was a gift from God, right? Like his ability to swing the bat, you could say, is a gift from the heavens. But I just love that he was so specific about his ability to backspin the baseball being a gift from above. But I mean, he does have a rare ability to do it, right? Like the exit velocities are slightly above average, and I honestly think if you equate it more to the big league numbers, it's closer to just average. But when you're not putting the ball on the ground at all and create that backspin carry loft, like even Comerica, he's going to be fine to the pull side there. I'm sure there'll be some frustrating times in center field where he hits one 410 and it doesn't get out, but that's going to be anybody. But what I really think solidifies this profile for me is the fact that he has some of the better plate discipline that you're going to see. I know you talked to him about second base, third base, and that whole thing. If he could play a comfortable third base, that's a huge factor in this whole thing. But the fact that he's going to be able to slug, I think, pretty consistently because he hits the ball in the air, whether that be through doubles or home runs, keep the strikeout rate decently in check because his contact rates have gotten better, but the chase rates are so low. I don't think he's going to be a star. I think that's probably clear. But I think that this guy has a good chance of being a big league regular and providing above average offense. That's why I'm just really interested in what the defensive profile ultimately looks like.
Yeah, and it really helps if he can play third base because Keith is going to be the second baseman moving forward. So do you have, a below average defender? Somebody's going to need to do it, I think, at third base. And Malloy is clearly holding down the DH spot, and his bat has been too valuable to take out of that Tigers lineup. So you kind of need Jace Jung to play third base if Keith is going to play second base full time.
No, in the long term, you're saying? Because they did just option Justin Henry Malloy.
Did they really?
Yeah.
When did that, literally yesterday?
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
Well, why?
I don't know.
It's, his numbers are not bad.
No, 98 WRC plus. I don't really know what the reason was. I'm 88% sure that I saw that.
I guess long term. I transitioned that, but I'm thinking short term and long term.
But yeah, I mean, I would have thought they'd keep him in the lineup, but they optioned him right after the game to Toledo. I don't really know if there was a direct explanation. Oh, well, I mean, they used to reinstate Riley Green from the injured list. So, okay, I guess I don't have the full roster situation in front of me, exactly how it shakes out, but I agree. I think he's been too good to just cast aside, but I think they really wanted to see what Jace Jung can do, and just surprising to see them already send Malloy back down. He did make a nice play, by the way, though, on a Stanton rocket to third base. Jace did, and turned a double play in the fourth. So I mean, look, if he can be average there, I mean that really, really helps their overall outlook. And it seems like they prefer Malloy in the outfield anyways, right?
Right. Yeah, corner outfield occasionally, but really just kind of holding down that DH spot. But I will say, watching 3-4 weeks of Jace Jung at third base, he looks comfortable enough at third base. Now, AAA ball compared to big league ball, it's a different beast, but I think he can be an average defensive third baseman.
I agree. And also looking back at Malloy, sneaky, just kind of struggling with the Ks over the last 10 games. Yeah, 34 at-bats, 19 Ks.
Ooh, yeah.
So might want to just kind of get him right. Maybe try to finish the year on a little bit stronger note, get him back up. I don't know. But yeah, definitely not the best stretch for him all of a sudden. He was great out of the gate, I think, but we'll see when he gets back up. the positive is Riley Green's healthy, and the other positive is Jace Jung is back in the fold, or is in the fold now. It's funny because I think it's clear that the Tigers feel the same way in terms of how important it is for him to play third, because he went from playing multiple spots to like it's only been third now. Like it is. I think he mixed in a second like one day, but if you look at the game logs in AAA, I mean it has been nonstop third every single game except for one over the last like 20 plus games. So they want him to get comfortable there. I think that's going to be the prerogative all off season. And that infield all of a sudden of Jace at third, Keith at second, and then, you figure out what they're going to do at shortstop. I don't know if they're going to keep Javi. At least Sweeney's another iron in the fire, Green in the outfield. Like they've got a lot of fun young pieces and more on the way. And Malloy, again, then maybe he comes back up and he gets a chance later on.
And they have their answer at first. Sort of kind of like, for better or worse, they have their answer at first base in Spencer Torkelson. So we'll see what happens on that.
That's the one where like I wouldn't be shocked if they moved him at some point and just change a scenery guy. But the optics of that is always tough. Kerry Carpenter looks like he's, a budding, I wouldn't say star just because he doesn't do enough in other aspects of the game, but offensively could be a masher. Meadows has been playing better. Like Dylan Dingler looks like he can be an actual everyday catcher with how good the defense and the power now looks. Like I'm really starting to buy into this to this vision that we have in Detroit. And man, if Torkelson was anything close to last year, you could really buy into it. But that is the one thing, the worst case scenario contingency plan. Jay slides over to first. If it's not working with Torque and you don't like the defense at third as much with Jace, that could always be an option as well.
It could be. I think you'd like a bigger person because Jace, like in person, is just not that big. But I'm telling you, I think he can hold it down at third base. I think he can be an average defensive third baseman. Last big league call-up that we got to talk about is Julian Aguiar, who just got the call, had his contract selected by the Cincinnati Reds. Was selected from Louisville. 13 starts with AA Chattanooga this year, a 3.38 ERA. 9 starts with AAA Louisville, a 4.4 ERA. This guy's not going to strike out the world. He was punching out like 10.5 per 9 last year. That's dipped below 8 per 9 this year. Having said that, he's never going to beat himself. He's going to fill up the strike zone. Will he get hit into oblivion occasionally? I think there's a very strong possibility of that at the major league level.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be frustrating, I don't think. The only way that he's going to fail is if the hitters are just better than him, and he's going to induce some weak contact. This is an interesting start that I'm excited to watch for Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is a guy that we kind of had when we did the red system as a back end of the rotation type of profile, and I still see that. I mean, 23 years old still. Like he's not. I don't know why I always feel like when you watch him pitch, everything he looks like he's like one of those 25-year-old guys that's finally getting up and getting a crack. But he's just 23, and he doesn't turn 24 until the middle of next season. So it's really kind of his age 22 season. Was really good. I think benefited to a degree from the Southern League ball and atmosphere and all that stuff. But 72% strike rate on a fastball that sits 95. And I know that the characteristics aren't great, but still sits 95. So that works as long as you're hitting your spots. Slider, he commands extremely well. It's an average pitch, but because of how well he locates it, I mean, just drilling his spots with it, that pitch plays above average at 80. And then the big kind of, like so many pitchers, the X factor here is, can you locate the third and fourth offerings? Because the 1 and 2 are good, but they're good. They're probably big league average. So can 3 and 4 be close to big league average? This year, they haven't been, and that's why he hasn't been as good at AAA. Changeup strike rate's about 55%, and the curveball, he's just not landing really at all this year. He almost needs to abandon that. So the changeup's going to be the thing to watch here, and the execution of it. If he's able to execute that changeup, I think that fastball, slider, and then the third pitch there are good enough with his command to be a 5-starter. So, you can never have too many guys like that in the fold. And I'm interested to see how he does. But, he's not necessarily a ground ball guy. So even more emphasis to nail your locations, pitching in Great American Ballpark, but definitely a quality arm. And I do think can serve a big league role one way or another. And definitely at the very least is big league starting depth. But I do think if he finds that third pitch, can come along as a 5-starter.
Yeah, I certainly like no higher than a 4. He's not going to be a 3, and it's like, oh, you've got Aguiar, but he can be that good rotational depth. All right, we're going to get to some minor league call-ups, including that WooSox quartet here in a moment. Before that, quick break. Let's talk a little bit more about that quartet. So that's Roman Anthony, who has been fine in his first week of AAA ball. It's only been a week of AAA ball. Kyle Teal, who has struggled in his first week at AAA ball, reminder. Marcelo Meyer, who has yet to play a game with Worcester. And Christian Campbell, who just got up from AA Portland. We know about the traveling three. We know about Teal, Meyer, Anthony. They know about Teal, Meyer, Anthony. Like if I'm not mistaken, they spoke at like the Red Sox off-season kind of fest together. So they've always kind of worked. Campbell, we got into off the top. He has been one of the better hitters in all of minor league baseball, but I'm really excited to see these guys be an infusion into that Red Sox lineup at some point, because have they been piecing it together this year? Yes. Have they been successful in doing that? Yes. Are they going to go to a new level when those guys get there from AAA? Absolutely. Like, that's the future. And the fact that the future is all together in one place is mind-boggling to me, because we never get that.
They got some tough decisions, I think, to make in the next year in the outfield. I mean, it's crowded and fun out there. I'm sure they'd love to move off of Yoshida, but that contract makes it tough. But now with Roman's timeline, and I think he's probably the least ready of the group. If you look at it just from like the defensive value that you get from a Meyer, a Teal is more offensively ready, but maybe you could argue that defensively still a little bit further off. I'm really interested in multiple things, like at least one thing on each player. I think kind of a guide of like what we're watching here, because I think this is really important timing where they're going to get a good deal of reps at the AAA level. And I'm glad that they did it now and not in September, because with Kyle Teal, I really want to see that defense come along. And he's got the goods, he can be a decent defender, but there's still some things that he needs to shore up. And most teams feel like they've got their best coaches on the defensive side of things and just catching side of things. And just in general, at the AAA level. Teal's kind of struggled with the run game. He's struggled with just some of the fundamentals of receiving. And I do feel like getting in touch with maybe some of the better catchers and more involved with the coordinators. Remember, it's a lot closer, I believe, if for Worcester to, a lot of the operations, the main things that they're doing over there at Fenway. So, I am very, very interested to see how the defense comes along for Kyle Teal, because offensively, I think he's close to big league ready. Defensively, I don't think he's there yet. Then you look at a Marcelo Meyer. I think defensively, he looks really good. Solid shortstop. Fastballs, he can crush them. I think he'd hit big league fastballs, no problem right now. How do you handle the secondary stuff? How are you going to handle, when you see more spin than fastballs through some ABs? Because Marcelo Meyer continues to struggle against that secondary stuff, especially that spin, changeups, curveballs have really given him some fits. The chase has improved and the swing decisions are better. But like, how do you do when pitchers are consistently locating their spin instead of you just laying off of it and then not missing the fastballs, which he's hitting 387 against this year, by the way. And then with Roman, it's just more getting reps. I don't think there's anything too specific there. He always seems to have an adjustment period. We've kind of seen that at each level, and just see how he handles the more advanced pitching and maybe see the defense in center. I don't think it's as much of a specific thing I'm looking for out of a 20-year-old Roman Anthony, other than the fact that, like, can he continue to get better at elevating the baseball? Because that's still the one thing that, could be a bit better for him.
Which is fine. Like Kyle Teal, defense. Marcelo Meyer, secondary stuff. Roman, it would be nice to see you lift the ball a little bit more. Like, it just shows you which one is considered the gold standard.
Yes.
And like, listen, are they all three top 100 prospects? Yes. Are they all three top 50 prospects in baseball? Yes, they are. But like, Roman's in that new echelon. And I think Roman you can look at as a franchise cornerstone, where Teal, hey, you have a catcher moving forward. I view Teal in a way different light than Keeper Ruiz, but in terms of impact on a team, I think that can be very similar.
Yeah.
Where it's, hey,
like, oh, we got a piece, let's hold on to him.
You got a piece, exactly. And it's like, hey, if you want to, see him through arbitration and then you want to offer him a 4-year deal to come back, like that's what we're looking at. And that's a damn good player. Like, Teal will probably be in the 11 to 15 range when we're talking best catchers in baseball, right? Because
as long as the glove comes along, that's the big thing, right? It's just like the receiving and some of all the metrics that we're going to look at that Fangraph spits out at us. if he doesn't shore some of those things up, people are just going to say, oh, Teal's not that great. So it's just those little things. But that's why I love that he's going to have this whole time in AAA, the whole offseason, and then spring training and everything. I feel very confident that he can get to that, at very least, middle of the pack big league catcher. I agree that, when he's hot hitting wise, because he can swing it, skews closer to that top 10.
That's the thing. Like, we're talking about big league regular in Teal. We're talking about big league regular in Marcelo Meyer, like flawed, good fielding shortstop. There are a lot of those guys. But we're talking about like perennial all-star capability with Roman Anthony. And that's a different beast.
Yeah.
He's the future of the franchise, it seems.
No doubt. I mean, like, Meyer is, and it's kind of like in that order, right? Where like Meyer has a little bit higher of a ceiling, and, giving you the defense at shortstop is really nice. But I think that you can temper the ceiling to a degree, because you have to wonder how much better he's really going to get with his swing path and the way that he just generally attacks the ball against secondary stuff. I just think he's going to ultimately be a guy that mashes fastballs, mashes mistakes, plays good defense. And, that's going to be a good player at shortstop, but probably not a superstar. Roman Anthony is a guy that, if it all does work out, can be that 30-plus home run hitting center fielder and doing a lot of things. Again, it could all happen for Meyer. I just have a lot more confidence in having with Anthony, who's more than a year younger, who I think is more impressive from the batted ball perspective, already has a more refined approach. I like the swing generally a little bit more as well. And I mean, if he starts to hit the ball in the air a lot more, or even a little bit more, it's going to be really scary. 90th percentile of 108.5 miles per hour this year, by the way, for a guy that's in his age 19 really /20 season. And he's already popped 116. Like, this guy could be a monster. And you saw it in that weird skills competition that they did. Like, when we finally get to the home run portion, it was just, it was effortless. It was a joke for him. He's got some silly power.
I'm kind of in on that just being the bunting portion. I kind of love that.
Yeah, just keep doing the bunting portion.
Just keep doing the bunting thing.
That was the dumbest thing I've seen in a really long time.
That was the biggest waste of time of All-Star Weekend ever. And we were like fired up for this. We were like, this is going to be really cool. And then everybody started bunting, and we're just like, no.
Yeah. They'll adjust. Hopefully, I think they tried again, lean more towards the Derby, because that was electric when they just got to the section where it was cut loose and just hit bombs.
It was awesome. So, and don't forget, you got Barry Bonds.
Yeah, Barry Bonds. The question for him is just, does it continue? That's pretty. Of course, the big question is, what's his long-term defensive home? Right. And that's the thing that I still don't know. He doesn't really look comfortable anywhere just yet. And partly that's not his fault. That's because I think they're moving him all over and want to see where he projects best. Then it'll be focus on that. I'm assuming they're going to want to figure that out at some point now in AAA, or they're going to lean into that super utility type and he just mashes. He's a good athlete, but I don't love him on the dirt. So I think outfield makes the most sense, but they probably don't want that. They would love him on the dirt. So we'll see how they can develop him infield wise and see if that's where they prioritize him, or if he's more that super utility type. But regardless, that's just the main thing to watch, and just what does it ultimately look like. I think second base, though, Vaughn Grissom just continues to be banged up. If Vaughn's not available and has issues next year, Campbell could just kind of grab that job.
So that was my thought exactly. And shout out our video king, Ben Bellotti, who posed that question. It's like, I wonder how Vaughn Grissom feels right now. And the answer is like, not great. I guarantee you he doesn't feel great about this. But at the end of the day, he's had an opportunity to kind of grab this thing by the reins, and he's just been hurt. Like, he keeps getting banged up. And when he's on the field, it hasn't been.
He looks like a guy who's been banged up.
Exactly. So it's like, obviously you can look at it from the sale trade lens. It's like, oh, they got fleeced, yada, yada. Sure. At the end of the day, like, we thought this guy was going to grab onto second base and be the second baseman of the future for the Boston Red Sox. Now, you got a guy you drafted last year that is essentially ahead of him on the pecking order.
And that's why layers of talent are so important, because whatever you think might happen, most of the time in baseball, it doesn't quite happen. That's why this scouting and especially on the amateur side, I don't envy those guys and girls at all. 197, by the way, for Vaughn Grissom in his last 20 games at the AAA level. So I just think it's a lost year. I'm not even going to look at much more beyond that. I'm going to chalk it up as he's trying to get back. He's been hurt, and let's see how he comes back next year. barring, a quick shift in the next couple weeks. I still believe in him. He's 23, but definitely has been quite disappointing. And he's going to have somebody on his heels next year, which is, I think a great thing for the Red Sox. And if you're a Red Sox fan, and hopefully Grissom can, earn some time there. And if he doesn't, at least it's not because he's not available. It's because Christian Campbell just can't stop hitting.
Right. We've got two Rays that we're going to talk about, both going to Double-A Montgomery. Yoniel Curet is going, but I want to start with Tre Morgan. Tre Morgan goes to join Chandler Simpson, who is the only guy that Tre trails in minor league baseball in terms of batting average. I think Chandler Simpson is hitting .358 on the year. Tre Morgan at .354 in 79 games, 26 in low A and 53 in high A. So he goes and joins that lineup with a Chandler Simpson, with an Xavier Isaac, with a Braden Taylor, with a Carson Williams. Like that Double-A team, Montgomery. We want to talk about Worcester. Montgomery's got a lineup and a half here.
Yeah. And this Ray system all of a sudden is just a monster yet again. Like, I mean, Aiden Smith is looking good. Like they're drafting well. It's turning into that force again.
How about what Brody Hopkins did? Did you see the other day?
I didn't see it, but I assume that it was just.
I think he came 6 innings, 1 run.
6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, 8 Ks. Yeah, that'll play. That was against Greensboro. He averaged 97.5 in that outing. But dude, Trey, like one of our favorite conversations. I'll speak for you on that one too. One of our favorite conversations that we've had, in the last year, and that's saying a lot because I really enjoy all the guys that we talk to on here. And he's just, I mean, for those that listen to it, I'm sure like you could tell why it was one of our favorites. He's exactly the same too off the air. He's just that happy-go-lucky guy that it's infectious, easy to root for. I did have some questions as to just like, is he going to still be able to hit that consistently at the high A level? Because this is a dude that has some of the best barrel maneuverability I've seen in the minor leagues, where like if it's up and out, he gets to it. If it's down and in, he gets to it. If it's way out there and he already decided to swing, he'll still somehow spoil it. But it's not like he's 95% in zone contact. Like he'll swing and miss a fair amount, but he almost does it at the perfect amount where if it's a pitch that he can borderline handle, he takes a good hack at it, maybe misses it or fouls it off or connects, and that's the ball that he hits for an extra base hit early in counts. And then as he gets later into counts, it's more, okay, I just need to put the ball in play. So you look at the in-zone contact rate, it's only 83%. But then you look at the overall contact rate, and it's 80%. That's outrageous. And of course, that's buoyed by a 74% out-of-zone contact rate. You just can't put the guy away. With 2 strikes, he's only being put away 8% of the time. So, like, good in that threshold at that level is about 16%. So, like, you can't put him away. And that's the part that's really fascinating to me. So, I think a lot of the surface level underlying, that's kind of, that was an oxymoron. A lot of this surface level data that people look at, like if you're going to see, contact rate, this or that, may actually result in them underselling Tre Morgan, because Tre Morgan swings at a lot of pitches in the zone that he's not afraid to miss. But then when he's behind, he becomes a different hitter. I don't recommend that to anybody. Like if I was teaching a hitter, I wouldn't tell them to do that because it's near impossible to do. But if you're capable of doing it, it's a nuance that not a lot of hitters have. And I'm just fascinated to see if it can continue in Double-A. That's the big test. Can you have that nuance to your game in double?
No doubt. The other thing is like guys that do that, I feel like kind of get in their own head. And I'm saying this about 99% of the guys that do that are like, hey, I can fight anything off. I can get to any pitch and I can deal with any pitch. You're not going to hit 8 homers. You're not going to slug over 500 because you're going to be in defense mode from 0-0. At least 99% of people that adapt this way of thinking are. Not him. Like, he's got 8 homers. He's slugging .515. How he does that, beyond me. I have no idea how he does that.
I think it's kind of what we're saying here, right? Like letting it eat early. So listen to this.
Yeah.
I told you when there's in all counts, you got an 83% in zone contact rate. With 2 strikes, 93% in zone contact rate.
Come on, man.
He's deciding when he wants to make more contact.
Yeah. That's so cool.
That is, and it might not be sustainable. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, this is one of the more impressively just adjustable hitters I've ever seen. When he's ahead in the count, his 90th percentile exit velocity jumps 2 miles per hour. And ahead in the count, he's slashing 404, 569, 636. So the fact that when he's ahead in the count, his exit velocities jump as well is just crazy to me, right? And then when he's down to 2 strikes, his 90th percentile drops to 100 miles per hour, which is fine because he's posting elite contact rates. If he maintains this in AA, this is just going to be one of the more fun, unique hitters that is just going to be too hard to punch out to not have a big league role. It'll probably need to be in left rather than first because he's not going to slug a ton. But if the fact that you can play him in left and then you have an elite defender at first, like the Bellinger type of thing, obviously Bellinger offensive value and it's in center. But if it's like a watered down, like, hey, he still plays a fine left and then can play an elite first when you need it, though he's not going to slug as much as you'd like. I think that multi-positional side where, yeah, you don't care about first base defense that much, but when it's elite, it's easy to get excited about it. And that's why I think like Bellinger, like even when he isn't hitting and he's playing more first, the defense is so good there that it's like, fine. Okay, he's still accumulating WAR.
Right. Well, and even like I'm thinking about an Anthony Rizzo too. Like Anthony Rizzo was a platinum glove level talent at first base, and that made the rest of the infield awesome because they knew that they had that over there. Yep. And I'm thinking like, if you can clear up a full-time place for Xavier Isaac at the DH spot, and you're like, hey, Isaac, you're only going to DH, I think there's no point in moving an elite defensive first baseman, like the best defensive first baseman in baseball we're talking about, off of first base. Now, if you can't promise that and you want the revolving door at DH, okay, have Tre Morgan play some left. But if you can say DH is Isaac's, first base is Morgan's, that feels like best case scenario for Tampa.
Especially if, like, you know, if you wanted to split it, right? And even in the days where, like, Isaac, you want to get him off his feet, he goes to DH, you might be giving up a little bit more slug by having Morgan play first, but the uptick in defensive value there would be pretty substantial. So, yeah, it gives them a lot of creativity. You know, they like to move guys around. And Morgan was pretty honest about learning left, but, you know, when you're getting one-on-one lessons with Dylan Cruz, I think it's clear that he's gotten more comfortable this year and it looks like he can be solid at the position.
It works. Yoniel Curet is the next guy that I want to talk about because he's also a Montgomery Biscuit. AA debut under his belt. 5 innings, 3 earned. He K'd 8. He didn't walk anybody. He did hit a batter. He allowed 2 home runs. But Curet is doing something that I was not expecting from him. That's cutting down on the walks issued. He's like kind of in innings here right now, and he's going to blow by 104 that he had last year. This is a different Yoniel Curet.
You're looking at the Rays' next 5 and dive guy, I think. This stuff is crazy. 10 starts before the promotion, 48 innings, 69 Ks, 4 earned runs. That's a 0.75 ERA, 35% strikeout rate, 9% walk rate. Of course, the walk rate's got to go down a little bit. I think that's mostly inflated by 1 outing where he walked 4. Yeah. He didn't walk more than 2 in any other outing and also had 0 in another. I mean, the command's always going to be fringy, but when you've got this stuff, I think he's that perfect 5 and dive guy that they love. And, you know, worst case, the command backs up, you know he's thriving in a bullpen for them. But he's 21. And I think you mentioning, like, the command has really shifted. We talked about him early in the year and said, wow, this guy's nasty. And him and Yilbert Diaz were kind of in the same conversation, just like, wow, it plays. It clearly creates tough angles, but, like, it's up to him. Let's see what it looks like. And there's still, like, no in between. He'll just fly with some pitches that are not competitive. But, I mean, the fastball slider combination is just devastating, and he mixes in enough decent changeups. It's just when that changeup's not there, like, what do you do? I think you can get through 5. You might not be able to get too much further past that. So that's why I just think he's that perfect, like, 5 and dive type. But the fastball is average 96 this year. Good characteristics. Hitters just can't pick it up. It's got that flat VAA. Slider is a plus pitch as well. He's going to be in a big league role for them next year.
Flat VAA is what, -4 or is it 0?
So you want to be like the lowest possible. I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah.
Let me pull it up.
So release height, like you want to see that essentially the lower the better if you're talking about ride.
And usually the lower release height will coincide with a flatter VAA. So if you somehow have a higher release height, but your VAA is flatter than most pitchers from that release height, then it's going to even play up even more. Where like somehow you're just releasing it flatter than most pitchers who, the higher it is, the more downhill plane it's going to be. So the fact that, you can be a slightly higher release point, but still have that flatter VAA, I think really stands out. But for him, it's, 5'7" release height, but creating kind of that flatter angle, even when it's down in the zone too. He just doesn't work as downhill as most guys do when they're locating down. So just, I don't know if he can have his wrist cocked back a little bit more. I don't know what it is, but certain guys, they just roll it off the fingers a little bit different, and that hand almost gets ahead of the ball and then it rolls off, and you just can't really describe it. But clearly hitters cannot get to it. But yeah, the lower the VAA, so the closer to 0, the better, but you're not going to get, anything much lower than, a -4.0, -3.8. Like that's what Woo is.
Right. Yeah. And that in essence is literally like, if you're with us on YouTube, it's the ball coming off of your hand pretty much like this with your fingers perpendicular to the ground, and it's essentially flying off.
Exactly. And he cross bodies. He cross bodies too, so it's just an uncomfortable at bat. Wasn't too much for Jared Serna though, who still doubled off of it.
Good, yeah, future shortstop the Miami Marlins. Nah, shit, he might be a dog. All right, we're gonna go rapid fire through some performers of August so far. Before that though, one more quick break. We can't start anywhere else, and I'm not gonna make you do Christian Moore again because Christian Moore has been awesome. Everybody knows that Christian Moore has been awesome. We got to start with Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz, who was the 4th overall pick of the Oakland A's out of Wake Forest. 7 games under his belt as a Stockton Port in the Cali League. 7 games, 10 hits, sitting 400. He's got 4 homers. He's driven in 12 already. He's walked 10 times and K'd 7 times in 35 plate appearances. That's a 20% K rate. This guy, in his first 35 professional plate appearances, has a 1531 OPS. And he's already flashed, what, 112?
I saw 111. I'm trying to remember if there was another one. There might have been a 113 in there, if I'm not mistaken.
There might have been a 113.
But, I mean, he's hitting it hard. He's hitting it hard. And he looks as good as anyone right now in the draft. Yes, he's in low A. And it's probably not a coincidence that the 2 guys in low A, besides Christian Moore, have looked the best, and J.J. Weatherholt and Nick Kurtz overall. But, man, like, Kurtz, it's been so fun to watch him command his ABs. Because now I want to look more at the individual ABs, because there's going to be some really bad arms that he's facing in low A, and then there's going to be some really tough ones. And there were some very impressive at-bats. There's one against Yoniel Flores, high leverage guy, crazy stuff, kind of sprays it. 9 pitches that he works here, and ends up being a little seeing eye single. But it was the battle that like you just aren't seeing from a Condon or a Caglione just yet. Even like a Christian Moore. Like Christian Moore's pounding tough pitches, but like this is the most impressive battle I'd seen, where he falls behind 0-2 on a pair of upper 80 sliders, then spits on a slider, then fouls off 100, then fouls off 98, then spits on a borderline slider, fouls off 99, spits on another perfectly executed slider, and then drives 99 for a single. And it just looked so comfortable. And these are all in different locations. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's just dialed in right now. Just looks super comfortable. The one like kind of piece of feedback that I did get on, from some folks on our top 100 was that, Kurtz should be a little bit higher in their eyes from some people I respect, that think that he could easily be one of the best bats in the draft. And I can't lie, like through the early parts of what we've seen, he's definitely, you can see that the reasons why. And I think, some of the people that feel that way, there's a lot of like athletic tests that he really thrives in for a guy of his size. I don't put as much stock into those things, but he clearly is a great defender at first. I want to see obviously how high A looks. And my biggest concern with Kurtz was just the ability to hit the breaking balls, and more advanced breaking balls. But the approach just clearly is so damn good. And it's not the passive side of things. Like he's spoiling, he's aggressive when he needs to be. I'm interested to see if that translates to high A and double A. but I got to say, like swing wise, comfort wise, sticking to his approach wise, I do think Kurtz looks just about as good as anybody. And the power is right there too. So he was right in that 50 plus, right on the edge of that 55, that next future value tier. And I think that with a little bit of an adjustment potentially, as we see at the end of this year, it wouldn't shock me at all with another good month if he shows us enough to kind of jump into that 55 future value tier and make that adjustment there. It's early, but from what I'm seeing, it looks like he could be that guy that makes that jump.
So the athletic tests, are those like, flexibility, like shuttle, things like that? Is he just a better mover than you would expect from somebody that size?
Yeah, we knew he was a good mover. I think it's more of like the adjustability in the box. Like he had been hurt at points of the year, and he just like didn't look like he had that swing malleability with the shoulder just not being right. Remember, he had ribs and shoulder.
Yeah.
And I just saw kind of a lot more rigid of a swing. And injuries are the big concern here with Kurtz. He's had a few through the years. And now he just looks healthy. And we saw it down the stretch. He put up video game numbers last year. And it just seems like he's way more athletic in the box. But I think it's mostly about twitch, explosion, and just athleticism in terms of flexibility. And all those things like are really shining through now that he's healthy. So this could be a guy that's an adjustment when we get to the end of the year, just based on what we've already been able to see from him. Don't want to overanalyze a sample of, how many games are we working with here? About 7. But holy crap, he's getting swings off that. It looks like that little time off also really has helped him get right.
Yeah. We've got another A that I want to talk about. Max Muncy, who's in AAA. Not that Max Muncy, although that Max Muncy just played the other Max Muncy, which is pretty cool. They took a photo together. This Max Muncy in Oakland, 16 games in the month of August, slashing 404, 508, 808. In 16 games, 10 extra base hits, including 5 homers. He's drawn 9 walks in 16 games to this point. That's a 1316 OPS. This guy was overmatched, I think, at the lower levels, and then he started to come into his own, and he's made his way to AAA and been successful in AAA a lot quicker than I was expecting him to be.
They've pushed him pretty aggressively. I think for a guy that's, had some adversity, like you said, but at the second half of last year, we really saw a shift, and I talked to him about that before the season, and he said a lot of it was just mindset, preparation, and just kind of trusting a lot of the things that came easy to him before. Felt like he kind of got away from some of the natural ability that he had, and maybe trying to do too much, lean into that power. You saw the 16 home runs in that first full pro season, but you also saw him strike out 30% of the time in low A. Whereas now, he's going to strike out, he's going to swing and miss, but I think he's looking at it like, hey, I can be an everyday middle infielder, and I can hit the ball hard, and if it means more doubles and more balls in play than strikeouts and homers, that's probably more of the archetype that I'm going to settle into, and I can grow into more power eventually. He still has a 500 slug, albeit in the PCL, but it's not as much of the selling out for homers that may have resulted in a little bit more swing and miss. So I think you're seeing a more complete version of Muncy here, that we saw the shift in the second half last year. We're seeing it continue this year. I mean, he can play an everyday shortstop. And I do think that, when you look at their big league situation, he could be that guy that fills in if Jacob Wilson's banged up. I think Jacob Wilson's that everyday guy ultimately, but I think this is somebody that could be the contingency plan for Zach Geloff if he continues to struggle. And, I'm not the biggest believer in Geloff. I think the whiff rates are too high. I think there's a lot of red flags there. And I think Muncy looks like a more sound player. So it looks like he could end up being that option for them at second base or third, no matter where you kind of want to move him around. But he seems like a guy that can kind of play all three infield spots. And the way he's been swinging it, I think he's a September call-up candidate too. You might as well get him a taste this year.
It totally looks like it. And I know they've had some guys that are performing pretty well offensively. They may go to some of the older guys, but I would love to see Max Muncy get that run. Let's go to Dalton Rushing here, who is 18 for 18 in his put-out opportunities in left field in his first 9 games with Oklahoma City. He does have an outfield assist. I did not see that video, but I see that he recorded an outfield assist, so that is really cool. But Dalton Rushing this month, 16 games in August, has an 1145 OPS. He's got 6 homers. He's driven in 14 in 16 games to this point. Is he striking out a bit? Yeah. Is he walking a lot? Yeah. You think this guy's a September call-up firmly? I'm pretty sold that he is.
Yeah, I mean, I got to watch a little bit more of the defense, but like just even combing through it right now, like it doesn't look bad. So as long as it's not bad, I mean, we're talking hard liners sinking coming in. He makes the grab, ranging back a little bit. He's been comfortable. He might just be fine out there, and if he's fine out there, it seems to be helping him offensively. I'd imagine when you don't have to prepare for an entire lineup, and instead he could probably prepare for the opponent like entire bullpen instead, with how much he's used to having to spend the time otherwise. So I'm sure it's a lot easier for him and a lot more comfortable. I'm watching him just absolutely run right by a ball that bounced in front of him though. Happens. It was kind of a sinking double, 72 off the bat. But, assuming the defense comes along enough to where he's passable, and I'm sure they'll probably want another couple weeks of him out there, doesn't look as bad as I thought it would look. I mean, it's got to be a lot easier for him offensively to not be squatting for the entire game and to, just be able to prepare for the pitchers he's going to face. I'll say, though, looking right now, probably needs a couple more weeks. Probably needs a couple more. But it's not a bad starting point. But real-time reaction, another 15, 20 games. Let's see where we're at.
It's okay. He's a catcher that's trying to learn the corner outfield. It's totally fine. Take your time, man. Although would love to see you in that lineup on September 1st. Another guy in the National League West that is much farther off, but Bryce Eldridge has had a hell of a to this point. Bryce Eldridge with the San Francisco Giants, 15 games this month, slashing 382, 500, 691. He's walked 15 times in his last 15 games. This guy has 3 doubles, a triple, 4 homers. He, by the way, has 3 bags in as many attempts. If he's fast and if he's an opportunistic base stealer at 6'7", I'm throwing in the towel. Like, this guy's a stud, huh?
He's 19 still somehow. He doesn't look it. He looks like a grown man.
40.
I put out a tweet about him a week ago just because I couldn't believe how good it looked. It wasn't just like the impact and tapping into it in games now and all that good stuff. It's just how comfortable he is for a 19-year-old who's 6'7", and I mean, just producing the EVs that he's producing, not chasing, pulverizing home runs in different regions of the zone. I mean, he looks like he's trending towards like overtaking, because I look at like we talk about putting these players in archetypes, and like Eldridge is the step above Ryan Clifford, and then before that we kind of had Las Montes a little bit ahead, and these are all similar types of players. With what Eldridge is doing now, man, like of this archetype, he might be among the top and kind of overtaking Las Montes, and not by any indictment on Montes. This is my opinion. I think he looks better. I think he could be better.
15 games for Las Montes in August, slashing 400, 493, 618, and 1111 OPS for Las Montes.
That's almost as good as Bryce Eldridge's 1179 over the last 15 games.
Yeah, but like you can't say that he's overtaking somebody when that person ahead of him has an 1100.
I think I'm saying in terms of my outlook, I think that Eldridge might have a little bit more in him. He's hitting the ball harder.
Yeah.
He's hitting the ball more. I just saying, they're the exact same age, by the way, like almost within a couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
That is crazy. I would think Montes is like 2 years younger.
No, exact same age.
That's wild. Same level.
It's going to be a masher, like lack of defensive value masher off. But yeah, it is crazy to see what Montes has been doing lately too.
Let's
appreciate both. But man, I'm surprised Montes has been doing as well as he's doing lately too. Like I thought there'd be a little bit of an adjustment period.
There was a tiny one.
Even when he whiffs, like he's whiffing a lot right now and he still slugs. So that's great to see.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on, man. All right. Let's go to Thayron Liranzo here.
Oh.
Another guy who's been balling out. You want to talk about Max Clark and McGonigal. Liranzo being on that team is a cheat code. Thayron Liranzo, 15 games with West Michigan since the deadline. 396, 547, 771. 15 games as a Whitecap. He's got 10 extra base hits, including 4 homers. Walked 16 times, K'd 11 times in his first 15 games. He's unbelievable, man.
He's only chased 10% of the time.
Dude.
Which is crazy because before that he was, he's never been a big chase guy, but it was low 20s, which is fine. But like, he's not chasing anything right now.
But think about that. Like, he goes to a new organization. Isn't natural human instinct to chase more and like prove your worth to the new organization?
You'd think so, unless they like hammered it home like immediately. Hey, welcome to the Tigers organization. Swing less, because it's remarkable how much less he's swinging. And he's been doing it from both sides of the plate, too, which is, we're talking about just the discrepancies. He's been another flip-flop guy where it was better from the right side last year. And then, this year, it was better from the left side last year. And then this year, it's been better from the right side, where on the season, he's gotten 1,000 OPS from the right side and just a 726 OPS from the left side. But if you look at the last 30 games from the left side, he's got an OPS of 888. So that coming along is absolutely huge. And clearly, he's just had a lot of comfort from the change of scenery. We're seeing a lot of prospects just benefit from it. A lot of times it usually goes the other way, but a lot of the change of scenery guys that didn't even really they weren't change of scenery candidates, but guys that have changed sceneries have seemed to have really got off to great starts, whether it be pitchers, hitters, whatever it may be. And what's also interesting is he's even been, cutting down the run game a little bit better of late. Not great, but he's had, I think, 7 attempts. He's thrown out 2. It's better than his average before. So that's the interesting part here. Is it looks like he's settling in a bit, and there's clearly a lot to be excited about. I think if you're a Tigers fan, even if there is going to be some whiff, if he's cutting the chase down like that, he's gonna slug. That's for sure. And the big question just becomes how does the defense come along? He just turned 21.
Yeah, we've got time, man. Okay, couple of pitchers to wrap here. Got to talk about Jack Leiter. And we're not talking about Leiter's, August. We're talking about his last start.
Yeah.
It was insane. 3 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, 11 Ks in 3 2/3. How many outs are in 3 2/3 innings?
That's just going to be 12.
3 2/3.
3 2/3. 11. 11. All of them.
How many strikeouts did he get? Yeah, 11. All of them. He was unbelievable his last time out.
That will play anywhere at any time. And like I saw people out make he's a friend of the program, of course, so I'll preface with that. But this is objective here. Some people quadruple A pitcher. No. But maybe he doesn't execute enough at the big league level and he does end up going back and forth, whatever. But this is not an instance of, stuff doesn't play the same way at the big league level, and now look at it play at the AAA level. By the way, this lineup had Nolan Jones in it, who he made look just embarrassed at points, but he was, I think, the one hit also. This stuff, so I watched every pitch. I cut it up. I put out the highlights on Twitter. This would play anywhere, even against some of the most impressive big league lineups. The problem is we have not really seen Jack Leiter execute like this with consistency. Maybe flashes of it, but this is what it looks like when he executes. It also helped that he was sitting 99. He touched 100 several times, but there were sequences where hitters legitimately had no chance. It was 99, 99, slider 92, 99, see ya. And the thing that stood out the most to me was there was a slight change in his delivery, and he's been tinkering because he just hasn't been able to find what's consistent for him because he's smaller and explosive, but trying to rein in those moving parts while still being explosive. You can see there's more of like this momentum to home and more of a center of gravity here. And I'm interested to see if he can maintain it. But you just saw what it looks like when he has everything going for him and everything's in sync. One, the fastball sits 99 and touches 100 several times with legit characteristics. He was getting 7 feet of extension, which would be in like the 85th percentile. So 100 with above average, so plus extension. And then he was getting above average carry from a below average release point. So that was playing like a true 70 fastball, maybe even a little bit better than that. We just hadn't seen it play like that for an entire start before. It would flash it. There's like splits of when he's getting, 17 inches of induced vertical break versus when he's getting less than that. And the fastball performance is crazy different. I haven't seen a player that has that much discrepancy in the quality of the fastball. And it has to fully just be based on the release characteristics and his mechanics. But beyond that, for him to really, really dominate at the level that we know he can as a top pick, the curveball has to be there. Because the slider is always there. That slider and cutter are always there. And the fastball, it's there sometimes. But to be the strike out everybody I see guy, it's the fastball quality and then the curveball. He located the curveball in this outing too. And when he's locating a power curve on top of that, you've got 100 at the top to worry about. Then you've got 90 with cut off of that. And then you got 85 with just power downward break. And on the season, he had only located that curveball for a strike 48% of the time. In that start, for whatever reason, he threw 7, he landed 6 for strikes, and I think 4 of them were whiffs. So, like, if he just has that, it's over because the fastball quality and the slider are that good. I don't know if he's going to continue to execute it like this. I have no idea. But what you just saw is what is possible and what is possibly attainable if he can find a way to maintain and repeat that, because that was for real. You don't find stuff like that often.
Well, the other thing is, call him Quad A all you want. I don't think you can call somebody Quad A until they have 10, 15 major league starts under their belt. We're talking about 3 starts that have spanned 9 1/3 innings. This guy has clearly tried to figure himself out since he was drafted. And we get flashes. And the flashes should excite you. And the fact of the matter is, 2025, that Rangers rotation is going to feature a good number of starts from Jack Leiter and a good number of starts from Kumar Rocker. And you can be really fucking excited about that.
Yes.
Okay? Like, that's totally fine to be excited about that.
Yes. Yes. I'm glad you said that. And if he's executing that heater, especially too, he could, the curveball is like the separator to really be that I'm having a perfect outing type of guy. But even off the fastball, slider / cutter, if he's executing that heater, he's going to be just fine. He could go 60% heater when it's playing like that, right from 5-7 release with 17 inches of vert and 7 feet almost of extension. Like, yeah, you're going to be just fine. So it's all about the command. And if that command is there, the Rangers have a good piece here. That was one of the most impressive starts I've seen all year. And hopefully you can follow it up with another good one.
Yep. Speaking of going 50% slider or 50%, 60% fastball. I don't know where 50% slider came from. Speaking of going 60% fastball, Bubba Chandler has made 3 starts in August. And Bubba, we can talk about his AAA numbers. AAA numbers are great. I'm going to include his last AA start because they make the numbers look even better. Last 3 starts, 20 innings, 10 hits, 1 run, 24 strikeouts, 3 walks. This guy, I sat 2 rows behind home because I had an off night on Friday, and I was like, hey, why would I go to my workplace on an off night from work? Oh, to go watch this guy.
Bubba Chandler. Yeah.
To go watch Bubba Chandler. And I'm telling you, it's just different. That fastball is just different. That gyro slider is just different. This guy is an absolute joy to watch pitch. And man, it's ridiculous what he's doing. And the fact that he went from 7 shutout innings, no hit through 5 in his AAA debut, to dealing with a little bit more foot traffic in his second start, but King 11 across 6 innings. He can get you a whole bunch of different ways. And what I loved was the fastball was the whiff pitch in Nashville. I think he got 14 swings and misses. I think 10 were on the fastball in Nashville. And then he got 14 or 15 whiffs at home against St. Paul. I think 10 were on the slider. He'll go to something, and he'll get whiffs with something. You just don't know which one it's going to be that night.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing early in the year, right? It's just you knew that he was going to go to one thing, and that was the one thing that he was going to mostly get whiffs with. And if he didn't, you didn't know what it was going to look like. Now it's, okay, you've got to be ready for the fastball, and even if you are, you're probably toast. And then that gyro slider off of it. When you have a riding fastball with the gyro slider, which is going to have that downward action, it makes it play up even more. So it's perfect from there if you created that in a lab. And then the changeup being a pitch that's really come along for him off of that. Of course, that's going to pair great with the fastball. And then the curveball has come along. Like, he can really get you in so many different ways. And when you always have the hitter's count eraser as well, when you have those kind of secondaries, then you've got the fastball, which is the hitter's count eraser. Chandler is one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Like, it's just that simple. He's not even 22 yet.
Yeah, he's amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. And it was fun talking to him about his changeup because he's like, Like, it looks good, right? Data points, it looks good. He said, I think that's my worst off-speed pitch. No, that can't be. That's not how this pitching
It has by far the highest swinging strike rate, and opponents are hitting 212 against it. Like, it's at a 21% swinging strike rate.
It's funny. He said, I can throw it for a ball. I can't throw it for a strike. I'm like, well, you know what? You're getting swings and misses all the time at it, so I wouldn't worry about that. All right, let's go to Chase Dollander here. A couple more guys. Dollander, who has made the jump to Hartford, his first 3 starts in Double-A. 18 innings, 10 hits, 1 run, 21 Ks, and 6 walks. He's somehow gotten better after leaving High A and going to Double-A. Is this getting away from that over-reliance on the fastball? Because the Dollander-Bubba conversation was pretty similar.
Very similar. Yeah, and I think so. You look at the usage really, I think as he got to Double-A, it's cut down to below 60%, which is all you really want to see. But I get why he uses the fastball so much. When you see the angle that he creates, he's another one of those where you can actually kind of see the ball almost sit in his hand and his wrist almost look flat backwards as he's throwing it. And whatever, it's beyond what you're going to see in TrackMan. It just plays up beyond that. And it's been dominant in Double-A as well. 34% in zone whiff rate, silly on a fastball. But he's been locating the slider consistently. Curveball and changeup haven't totally been there. And so that's kind of what we're waiting on to get to that next step. But when you got a fastball that good and a slider that good, this is a guy that could succeed as a 2-pitch guy, mostly at the big league level, if it came to that. But I know he has a lot of pride in the changeup development that he has flashed at points this year. It's just kind of slipped from him the last couple weeks, and that curveball has come along as well. So if either of those pitches can be an average third one, the fastball and slider are clearly 2 big league plus offerings, and with the command continuing to come along, I think Hartford is just really going to benefit him from the environment, and clearly he's got a lot of confidence to just fill up the zone, and he has not given up a run in his last 13 innings.
Dude, 2 more guys. Quinn Mathews, who we've talked on and on and on about. Quinn, in his last 3 starts, he's made 3 starts in August to this point, 18 innings, 9 hits, 1 run, 28 strikeouts, 3 walks. I'm starting to buy more and more into this guy throwing games for the St. Louis Cardinals in September. How can you not?
I asked you the question, and I thought it was like a 50-50, maybe even like 60-40 in favor of like not happening. But I was like, oh, like could we see it? And you're like, he's just gonna make it to where it's not even a question. Like, there's no choice, right? Like, there's no discussion to be had because every single time he's out there, it's a freaking joke.
What you gonna do? Like, send this fucker to Memphis? Like, there's no point in him going to AAA. Let's just get him to the show and see what happens.
That's my thing. So it's like, yeah, we just had a conversation about it because it was a conversation, but there's one factor that we didn't really hit on, which is what if he just doesn't stop dismantling everybody? And this is in the Texas League. And like, if he doesn't stop dismantling everybody, then maybe a struggling Cardinals team looks at him and says, save us. And, he might be able to. If you even go one more start further back, his last 4 starts, 24 innings, 37 strikeouts, 4 walks. And the reason why I think he can be that guy that makes that leap, if they wanted to get aggressive with it, the fastball quality is clearly there. It's not just the velocity, it's the shape. He has good life on it. But then it's the confidence in 3 secondaries. He's going to throw you 3 different secondaries, and they're all good. So I feel like he's already primed to be able to battle, even if he doesn't have his best stuff, against a big league lineup and turn lineups over. That changeup has been one of the better changeups in minor league baseball this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact that he can go to, how many pitches do you think are comfortably big league at this point? Fastball, changeup.
I think the fastball, slider, and changeup are all
the slider. Slider's big league.
Yeah. The only one that's maybe not is the curveball, and it is big league if it's your taste-breaking 4th steal strike pitches. So he's got 3 big league pitches, and he's got the taste breaker.
If he has 3 big league pitches and he has this type of command, just get him to the freaking show.
I would love that.
Yeah. And it's not like you need to worry about innings limits because we're not worried about pitch limits.
No, not with this guy.
Not with this guy at all. Last guy that I want to talk about is Travis Sykora, who I know we're going to talk about a little bit more at the end of the week. But Travis Sykora with Fredericksburg, low A for the Washington Nationals. Last 3 starts, 15 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 23 Ks to just 2 walks. This guy's weird. It's funky. And he was an interesting watch during spring breakout. And he's been an interesting watch when you check in. But all of a sudden, this guy looks like a really freaking good pitching prospect.
He's really hard for me to gauge. We're talking about we're gonna break into him in depth later this week in the Nationals top prospect list, which will be done in the next couple days. The numbers are crazy. He was touching triple digits in high school. Got I think like comp A round money to sign away from.
Sounds right.
I forget where he was signed to. Texas, I think, to sign away from Texas. But regardless, he's sitting more 95 because they want to see him stretched out. I think he's overpowering lower level hitters with velocity rather than the shape and characteristics. So that's the one thing. Like, I've seen a 70 put on the fastball. I'm hesitant to exceed 60 at this point, but he's overpowering hitters with that. And then the slider from that weird short arm ish, whatever the heck release point, you just can't pick it up. And then he has a splitter from that spot too. So I think it's a potential for 3 above average, maybe even 3+ pitches if it all comes along. The delivery screams reliever to me, but like who knows anymore anyways. And if he's getting outs and holding his velo, like maybe it isn't as reliever risky as it looks. Like I'd have to see it more in person. But I mean, you can't argue against the numbers. He just had his worst start of the season where it was 4 2/3, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks. I mean, he has been lights out this year and has been, really hot of late. So he'll be high on the Nationals top prospect list, and we'll get deeper into it, later this week.
Yep. I'm excited for what's to come this week, man. That's what we got today.
Yeah, a little bit longer today because it might be a day or two before the next episode. We'll see. We might squeeze one in. Of course, we have the Jack's conversations with both Bubba Chandler and Thomas Harrington, which excited to get those out. And then we'll probably wrap up the week with the Nationals top prospect list. I'm finally making that move middle of this week, so it's going to be a little bit crazy. And making a pit stop in Nashville to catch Marlins Nats. So Jacksonville versus Nashville on the way down to Florida on the drive. So going to get some live looks.
How many games are you giving yourself?
Probably 3.
Okay, so you will get Yoho and Mizorowski.
Oh, I can't wait.
Was that Josh Norris of Baseball America who got
that? Put together? Yeah, Josh did. Josh put the Yoho.
Oh my God, dude! Yoho from the home plate view, and then Mizorowski from the home plate view. You don't realize like what that looks like until you see that video. Go to Josh's Twitter. Josh does an amazing job, but seeing Mizorowski and like how he's just kind of flying towards you and his face is 30 feet away from you by the time you're swinging. Like it is.
I don't know how anyone hits him.
It's hard to fathom Mizorowski and Yoho from a home plate view.
Josh Norris makes it as easy as possible to appreciate how good these guys are and how hard it is to hit. So, I mean, the video he gets, I mean, these Baseball America, these folks, they're amazing. Like they're scaling the nets, man. They're getting that camera up there so they can serve you that like incredible angle and get the video.
Hardcore legend.
Oh, Jeff Ponce is doing backflips off the top of the net. Like, no, I mean, they definitely go support and check that out, and you can really appreciate what it looks like from that angle. It's wild. But that'll do it for this episode. Looking forward to those interviews with 2 of the more impressive pitching prospects, especially one of them in baseball right now, and then Nat system that is very, very, very good all of a sudden. We'll check in probably with some live looks from Nashville and this revamped Jacksonville AAA ball club after we just did that Marlins list. Going to be staring at Agustin Ramirez every second behind the dish, seeing how that defense is. It's got a lot of pushback on that one from Marlins faithful. So I'll get a follow up. We'll see what we think, and we'll see how that glove continues to come along. But look forward to talking prospects with you later this week.